Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And hello, everybody, and I got to tell you, by the way, if you're a man or if you love a man and you want to be a man, I don't know, one of those things, you need to listen to this episode in its entirety because I think you're going to like it a great deal. And Brachelle's not a man, but she knows men, and she knows lots of men, not really lots of men, but she knows. Anyway, Brachelle, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. I feel much better. I'm excited to be here. We have Troy Ismir. He has the innerpowercollective.com up and running if you get curious to take a look at that. But how are you, Troy? And thank you for being here as well.
I'm doing great. And Kevin, I always enjoy your enthusiastic introduction. And Rochelle, it's great to be here with you too. So it's an honor to be on this show a second time. So.
Absolutely. Well, Troy, the thing is that either men don't know how to get in touch with their feelings. They don't know how to deal with some of the issues that they have had. Some deal with it in different ways, like anger, maybe a 6-pack of something or a 12-pack of something else or stuff like that. And your mission in life is to help men get through it and to live the best lives that they can, because and I don't know about you, so tell me, because I don't know. When I was growing up, which was a few years ago, nobody talked about men's health or why men feel the way they do, or it's like, just buck up, don't cry, just be, and in this day and age, that doesn't work very well anymore, especially when we're talking about men in their relationships with their women, with their children, with all of that kind of stuff. So what you are doing is very helpful. So tell us what you are doing on behalf of men and in support of them.
Yeah, I think, the biggest challenge for men is we don't have the skill, or we're not taught how to process our emotions in a healthy way. So we suppress them, we cover it up, we find some addiction to, so we don't have to deal with it. And then it usually comes out as anger or rage. So what I do is I provide a platform, both one-on-one and in small groups called Men of Courageous Souls, where we can learn how to express our feelings in a safe space where we're not going to get shamed for it, we're not going to get judged for it, we're not going to get criticized. So we can gain these skills in a safe place, and then we can better communicate with our family, our friends, our loved ones, our spouses. And typically, men just kind of shut down. I certainly did. I just, I put up the stiff arm, and I suppressed all my emotions, and it was very, very unhealthy. And so that's what I really provide for men, is that opportunity to explore our feelings, get in touch with our feelings, and not be wishy-washy or anything like that. We don't lose our masculinity. We just get more in touch with our, we'll call it, for lack of a better word, our feminine side, which isn't necessarily a girly side, but more of our feeling side. Most men are very reason-oriented, and we can find that balance. It's kind of the yin and yang, to use kind of Taoist language.
Yeah, it's interesting how we all behave as men, because a lot of us don't even take the time to think that they can figure out how to be a different way or to be more in touch with themselves. And I'm sure, Brachelle, you've been around fathers and not brothers, but cousins and boyfriends and all that kind of stuff. Is that really a common thing amongst guys that we just don't, we don't get it. And not only don't we get it, we don't talk about it. So then we really don't get it. And then nobody gets us. And then that becomes even a bigger problem. Or is that been your experience?
Um, in the general sense, yes, because I see that it probably happens at a young age where even you'll see men who say, well, I don't want to be emotional, I'm not going to be emotional, or they fight against that, but they're some of the most emotional people that you'll meet. And without being able to accept that they have emotion as a human, you can't you can't do anything about it because you're not aware of it, so you have no control of yourself. And a lot of that you can hear it when guys talk about themselves or they talk about situations they've had. And it's more of like what they feel about themselves and what they see in themselves, and everybody does that. Um, but I have a question for you, Troy, because I wonder through
Mhm.
this entire process, like, what's the first thing that you have to break through to like to even begin to understand or recognize or control any of it in the first
Yeah,
place?
yeah, that's a great question. And I think the first thing is to break through the shame of being able to express our feelings. A lot of times we've been shamed for truly expressing in a vulnerable way of how we feel, whether it's through crying or being sensitive or expressing, and we get shut down. So we're taught to feel shame around these very normal human emotions, male or female. So I think the first thing is to break through the shame and have that courage to start to express ourselves and know that that's a very human part of us to be able to communicate how we feel. And that's really challenging. And I think there's shame, and then there's pride would be the second thing, to break through the pride of I'm supposed to have it all figured out and I don't need anybody else to help me. And I think those are the two biggest things. And those are two pretty big lies that we've both taken on through our own conditioning, and also that has been shared with us through our conditioning, through family, and other conditioning. So there is a lot of challenges. I mean, and then, you look at, like, for me, I played football growing up. So you had to, unless you had a bone sticking through your body, broken ribs or concussions, you were meant to get back out on the field. And if you didn't, you were ashamed for that. And so there's a lot of that conditioning that we grew up with. So having, learning how to break through that and have a brotherhood where we can do that is really, really important. And it's a practice of intimacy. And I know a lot of men, which I've always not liked that word of intimacy, but it's a place where we can practice intimacy, both with ourselves and being vulnerable, and with other brothers.
Troy, I got to ask you because I was just thinking here, how many times as an adult do I remember ever crying? And I
Mm,
don't mean watching the end of like Braveheart and because that was a sad ending, but really got down and cried for, I remember, two times in
mm,
my entire life. Two,
mm.
two. That would be two. That'd be too
Yeah.
few. But in the guys that you talk to, is that a kind of a thing that we just don't give in that way?
I think everybody's different. I think, I've definitely have cried in my lifetime. And I remember a specific incident growing up. My sister, 4 years older, she was a pretty bad bike accident, and she was hurt and I was crying. And my dad looked at me like, why are you crying? Are you hurt too? Well, I wasn't physically hurt, but I felt her pain. So as an empath, I feel other people's pain. So I'm more prone to cry. But I know, like, one of my clients, he hadn't cried in years, and he didn't know how to cry. He literally didn't know how to cry. And once we kind of dug through the emotions, he was able to express in a form of tears. And crying is actually a very healing emotion, and it's a very normal thing to express. And again, a lot of times we're shamed for crying. And I think when we hold that in, that eventually turns into very suppressed anger. And that's really when good things do not happen. And men become violent, either they violent outward or violent towards themselves, however that looks. So yeah, I think we have to relearn how to cry, as silly as that sounds. I think it's the truth.
Well, and you're talking about expression, Troy. I
Mhm.
wonder, have you ever had a situation where you've seen somebody kind of take it all the way to the opposite end, like go from 0 to 100, and then it was kind of like this blow up expressive, or like, um, I've seen times more in like little boys and teenagers when they come to this conclusion, they realize, well, I can express myself, I can be whoever I want.
Yeah,
Um, it's not necessarily in the healthiest ways, or it's
yeah.
in a sense of revenge or that kind of thing. Do you ever see that happening, and how do you kind of gauge them to make sure they don't like just send themselves off the rails? Because I
Yeah.
definitely did.
Yeah, and again, I think it's a skill to how do we express ourselves in a healthy way, and that takes a lot of self-control. And especially when we're frustrated or things aren't going the way we want to, so we have to learn how to express ourselves in a very healthy way. And again, we're not taught that. It's a skill, it's a practice. And yeah, we can take it to the extreme where we're expressing ourselves, but it's in a very unhealthy way. And a lot of times it's through yelling, screaming, physical force, or at least intimidation. And then we feel that energy of that other person backing down. So a lot of times, the reality is we feel powerless. So we try to have power over another person. And we see it every day, right? Men having power over. It's this false sense of power, whether it's through some physical abuse or verbal intimidation, sexual abuse. Men really, they feel powerless, but they act in a very inappropriate way, so they have this false sense of power, and that's really, really unhealthy. So what I teach men, that's actually Inner Power Collective, I'm an inner power coach. I teach men how to find the power within them, so they don't have to have power over people. We can communicate as equals in a calm, trusting way, preferably. uh, so we can actually communicate, and we can have communication, and it's back and forth, and it's between like a male and a women have to create this space for men where we feel safe to express ourselves and not feel bad about it, or judged or put on the defensive. So it's a two-way street, as all communication is.
Yeah.
Do you have any of your clients that kill doors?
I was a door killer. Yeah. I was a wall puncher, for sure in my day. Um,
I murdered 2 doors that I can think of off the top of my head. Just
yeah. Yeah. I was pretty good at, I'll call it self-abuse, in unhealthy ways. One of the unhealthy ways was going into the gym, which looked healthy, but it wasn't healthy. I would put on really angry music, Eminem or something like that, and just abuse myself for 2.5 hours. Couldn't walk out of the gym, couldn't walk the next day. Yeah. So, like I said, we turn anger external or internal. I was an internal, turn it in towards myself. Sounds like you did that too, where you punch things, if I
well,
understand you correctly.
well, it was better than punching somebody.
Yes,
And
yes, in a sense it was, but you're in a sense punching yourself.
well, yeah. So
Yeah, so you are a loving, kind man, and we all are, that don't deserve to punch ourselves, and that's a deep emotional suppressed, um, whatever you're suppressing, and
yeah.
and that comes out where self-abuse.
And yeah, and it's easier to do that than I don't know what it is, because I don't get angry very often. Michelle's known me for over a year. She's seen me lose my control just a little bit, I think, one time. But most of the time I'm happy go lucky. But then I plan my life that way. When we come back from this break, I want to talk to Troy about, and by the way, I love men of courageous souls. I love that statement about how you can help men. And I want to ask you when we come back, and it's just a minute break, so nobody go anywhere. You got it. But I want to ask you, what it is the first thing that you talk to men about that can help them begin to open up the doors that need to be opened for them to touch their own hearts and to start to healing all of the things that may be going wrong with them. Can we do that?
You bet.
And we'll be right back.
You became a real estate agent for freedom, success, and real momentum. So why are you still stuck waiting for closings to save you? I'm Ophir Adar, founder of Real Momentum, and I help agents like you become seven-figure earners. My first client that I coached, brand new agent, made $250,000 back in 2006. What's the secret? You feed your white wolf. That's the part of you that's bold and unstoppable and a closer and able to build rapport quickly. So click Get Listings at Real Momentum and let's unleash your real estate potential.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Rochelle. She's right there, and she's the resident, and Troy is right there, and you two are the resident experts on men, because I don't get them, I don't understand them, I don't even like them that much generally. No, I'm kidding. But Troy, I wanted to ask you, when somebody comes to you and they are beside themselves because nothing in life seems to be working. Why is nothing seeming to work for me? Why is my relationship on the rocks? Why do my kids run from me when I'm coming to the house? Why are all these things going on? What are some of the first questions that you help them with to try and get through all of that? Because that's a pretty heavy burden to carry.
Yeah, there's a lot of unpacking to do. That doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time and effort and courage to, my mantra is keep showing up. And I think, there's probably two things that we look at. First is a lot of the conditioning that they are carrying with them. It's family conditioning, social conditioning, religious conditioning. So this conditioned mind that we're kind of born into. So we look at all that conditioning, which has taken years to really kind of be instilled into our brain. So we look at a lot of that and like what's true, what's not true. So that's one of the first things. And then it's just learning to love ourselves is really difficult for men. We feel that we have to earn love. We have to perform. A lot of our validation is based on how much money we make, the work that we do. So really learning to just love ourselves for who we are without adding other things to it, and just talking through that. Well, self-worth, how do we get for you to at least start to like yourself and then love yourself without condition? And those are really two big things. And I think people think that this is going to be a quick fix, and it's not. This is a lifetime journey of healing that we really do. And once we think we're there, we're not. So we have to keep doing the work, keep showing up, working through energetically all the things that life brings us. And, something just came up for me yesterday that really triggered me. And I really had to just step back and look, okay, I've done a lot of work. This is how it would normally respond. This is how I'm choosing to respond now. Can I keep my sense of inner peace when something that happened to me that was not right and being taken advantage of? But can I still hold this inner peace within? And this has taken many years of me to be able to at least consciously look at this and be aware of, okay, I'm being pulled off center and I need to come back to, hey, I'm okay. It's going to work out. Let's keep the inner peace. I'm not going to let this situation and this person take away my inner peace. And that's the work I do on myself. And that's the work that I help men do. And that's why we can't do this alone. And I think men think that we can, and we can't. It's a lie.
Oh, men, not only that, men think they have to do it alone. There is nobody else to do it with us. Rochelle, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you're talking about learning to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Is there guidelines that you use or maybe things that you help? Because I've seen in situations where it's like, okay, well, I love how you give the aspect of still keeping your inner peace, but having the forgiveness and being able to handle it healthy. Because I've seen times any person, they'll look inward and they'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to love me. And then they kind of take it too far and it makes the pride maybe set in differently, but deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you kind of set up, like, if a guy didn't even know, like, what do you mean love myself? Like,
Yeah.
what would you
Yeah,
say?
and again, it's a lot of unpacking. It's really diving deep into how they've been conditioned to, and these are very successful men, that they're not enough, and really looking at that. And yeah, of course, you can take it to this extreme and become very egotistical. I don't see that quite as much, where it's
Okay, that's good.
this more inferiority complex, as opposed to a superiority complex. And maybe if they have that superiority and complex, they're not going to come and ask for help. It's more of the men that don't feel like they're enough, and that's more of the work that I see. But it's really helping them look in the mirror and seeing this, and they have to do it themselves, because I can tell them what I see. And this was part of my challenge. Like, I could have other people tell me, I'm a really good man, I have a great heart, but until I believed it in every fiber of my being, I'm going to show up with less confidence, with a lack of self-worth. And I think that's more of men's struggles, at least what I see, than going to that other extreme. And of course, we have that narcissist, but that's really, I don't see that a lot.
Do you ever get the comment, I don't deserve love?
Yeah. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not
Yeah.
enough. Yeah. And I think that's really sad to me, because we're all worthy of love. We're all deserving of love. And for whatever reason, we've been conditioned to think that we're not. So it becomes very performance based. And then we look for validation, typically from a woman, to tell us we're a good man. Yeah, Kevin's over there.
It gets annoying when they're young too, because it's like every day I'm like, oh my gosh, are you enough for yourself?
Yeah, and I think, for some reason, we look for validation outside of ourselves. I'll be the first to admit that. And I think it's something about how we're not loved for who we are from our upbringing. And we're conditioned to, hey, you get straight A's, I'm going to love you for that. You perform well in sports, I'm going to love you for that. It's not just, hey, I just love you. End of story. So we get conditioned to think, I need you as a woman, which puts a lot of pressure on a woman to validate a man. And that's not fair to the woman, and it's never enough. What's Kevin, you're nodding your head. I would love to hear
No, I was because I was just thinking that, and I only can tell you about my life because I can't speak for anybody else. But I was thinking about growing up. I do not remember my parents ever, not once, saying, just because
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
You're a great kid. I love you. Never. That just did not happen in my house. So consequently, as I grew up, it all became about finding the pretty girl who I could get to love me because nobody else will. And so I needed to find that pretty girl to do that. And what I found out was that didn't solve anything.
Right. Yeah. Here's the hard truth. There is nothing outside of ourselves that that will ever fulfill us. Nothing. So that means the journey is inward to learn how to love ourselves. And if you're more on the spiritual side of things, our source, our creator. And I've had to find that out the hard way. And everything that I thought would make me happy did for a short period of time until it didn't. And then I was back at square one. And, if there's one thing that I could impart to other men or your listeners is the journey is always inward. And what you think will make you happy from an external standpoint, it won't in the long run.
And you know what's interesting about that, Troy, as you said that, I was just thinking to myself that is exactly what attracts a great woman to you is the fact that you have it all together from the inside out and you know who you are. Would I be correct in that, Michelle?
100%. It is the most attractive and sexy thing to a woman, not a little girl. Little girls like to play the games and being taken care of and do vice versa. But when you build yourself into a man, you can find yourself a good woman, let alone, I'll say you attract her because you're not searching outward anymore. Everything is inward. So it's coming to you and you're allowing it and you're starting to understand it. And Troy, I have to ask you, what would you tell a woman that says, he's so good at loving me, but won't do the same to himself or vice versa?
Yeah, I think the best way we can love somebody else is to love ourselves. So I would say, is that really love? Right? Is it loving somebody else to be loved in return? And I think, I've certainly have done that as opposed to, hey, I'm going to love myself. I have so much love and then I just want to share with you and I don't need anything in return. And I think what happens is we love somebody because we needed to be loved back. And that's not really unconditional love. It's love outward to receive love backwards. So I would really ask that woman to really look, is that really unconditional love?
That's a very good answer.
Is there, and there's a bunch of guys in the audience going, come on, there's no such thing as unconditional love. There's always conditions attached to everything. And you can't fool me, Troy. I know better. I'm a guy. There's somebody out there saying that.
Yeah, and it's rare. I'm not saying that it's a rare thing, but it is. I do believe it's possible, but it does take a lot of work. And but yeah, it is rare, and I don't think it's very common. So I would agree. I would agree with the men out there. Like, wow, is that even possible? I do believe it is. I do believe it is, but I do believe it's rare, and it takes a man of courage to really do the work. And it's not easy. I'd never tell my clients this is easy. I said, this is the hardest thing you will ever do. It's been the hardest thing that I've ever done. I've been working with my mentor for 8 years. And there were some sessions where just washed out. I mean, take a day or two to recover afterwards. But in the long run, it is worth it, because what's the alternative? Right. I've been there. That's not fun either. It's just harder in a different way, but I choose more challenging in this way because of that inner peace that we can find when we do have these challenges that are external. So how can I cultivate this inner environment that I can find this peace even when things are not going the way I would like them to. And that's a big shift. That's a big shift for me. But it's also wonderful.
And by the way, we're talking with Troy.
Ismir.
Ismir, like Kashmir.
Ismir, no H. Ismir.
Yeah.
And Troy, your website is again.
It's innerpowercollective.com. Yeah.
Innerpowercollective.com, and go to the Men of Courage. When we come back, I want to talk more about that, because you've got a whole thing about that and men of courage, because I was just thinking to myself, well, if you tell men that it takes a lot of courage to do the work, you'll get some men that'll say, yeah, I'm tough, I can do this work because I'm courageous, and until they get in and cry like a baby. But we'll be right back, and we're going to talk more about that, because it is so important that people understand that you need to start with yourself, and you need to do these things internally, and Troy can help you with that, because a lot of us don't even know where our heart is or if it even exists. And we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. Rochelle is over there dancing, and if you knew how tough a day it's been for her, you'd be amazed that she's dancing, but that's good. And Troy Istar is with us. It's here.
Almost. Ismir.
That's a new one. I don't know.
That's a new name.
Yeah.
So I like the new name I gave you better than the old name. Anyway.
Istar?
Well, that's a movie, as I remember correctly.
Okay.
So Dustin Hoffman was in that years ago. It was a total flop. In any event, we're talking with him. He helps men come to terms with who they really are. Because Troy, I don't think that very many of us really have a clue who we really are and how we can live our best life. But when you get to that point of where you can love yourself and care for yourself and understand yourself a little bit, you can do amazing things and you become an amazing person. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, 100%. I think men kind of get lost in who they are, who they think they are. And most men are doing work that is unfulfilling to them. And a lot of our self-worth is tied up in our work. I think men are very mission driven and a lot of times choose kind of safety and security and money over this sense of fulfillment. So I help men live authentic lives. And I know for me, I was in pharmaceutical sales for 17 years. That was not authentic to my soul. And I pushed through for 17 years to provide for my family and my kids. And once my kids graduated high school, I left and I've been on this, I guess, solopreneur journey. And I help other men who are really struggling in who they are and the work that they do and help them find fulfilling work and purpose in their lives. And I think men are purpose driven. I think we all are, but that's really, really important. And that's a lot of the work that I do with men. And it's really sad to see men struggling in lack of purpose, lack of fulfillment, and not feeling like they're contributing to the world. And it takes risk. It takes risk to leave that comfort and security of a paycheck or a job that you've had for a while. And I help men take chances on themselves again, and see them come alive. It's fun.
Do you ever have men that, I know all people do this, but it's got to be a different sense for men when it's hard for them to accept who they are because they don't want to be that? How do you help that? Because they want
Yeah,
to change who they are, but you're trying to teach them to love themselves. So how does that
yeah,
balance work?
yeah. It's always kind of a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Accept where you are in life, and then continue to transform to be the best version of yourself. Right. So it's acceptance. This is my life. This is what I've created for myself. There's no shame. There's no guilt. There's nothing bad.
Mhm.
This is just where I'm at. And okay, let's now do the work to transform and be a better version of yourself. There's nothing wrong with you right here, right now, but we all have work to do. We all have things that we can get better at, and we're never fully evolved. It's a lifetime journey. And that's what this work is all about, is to continually work on ourselves and take a look. How can I get better? What can I do better? And that should be fun. That should be exciting. It should be an adventure instead of being stuck and stagnant and complacent. And I think that's when our soul dies. When it was just like, I don't know, this is my life and I'm giving up. And we probably all know men that have done that. And it's a sad thing to see, and to the point where men feel hopeless and commit suicide. And this is something that is really strong on my heart. That men get to that point where they feel like their life isn't even worth living.
Mm-hmm.
That's heartbreaking. And it's so not true. We all have something to contribute just through our being. And a lot of times it's very highly successful men, but they just don't see it in themselves. So yeah, it's radical self-acceptance with the wanting to continue to transform.
How do you coach a man who buys into it? He's understanding his heart. He's changing quite a little bit, and he wants to pursue his passion.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in his life is saying, but you've got a great job. What the hell you mean you're gonna go do a radio show? How do you know that's going to be successful? You're a successful district manager. You make great money. You got a company car, and you're going to give all that up, and you're going to go do a radio show that you don't even know if anybody's going to even friggin' listen. How do you, and fortunately for me, I didn't listen to them because I'm a little stubborn, and but as Michelle can attest, but there are lots, but there are lots of guys that'll say, "Oh, okay, honey, I know you're right," and then they'll go back and they will hate that moment until every day, until they either pass away or get to follow their heart and do their passion.
Yeah, it's well, I'm glad you broke free and were able to follow your passion. So you're obviously transforming lives by taking that risk. And there's always going to be doubters, right? There's always going to be say, hey, you have this great job. Why would you leave this? You have you have all the perks, you have the money, the company car, the 6 figures, the pension, all that stuff, but there's not fulfillment. Right. And that slowly kills our soul. So we have to believe in ourselves enough and do it in a way I think that's smart. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. It took me some time. I had money saved up, so especially when you have family responsibilities, sometimes you just have to do what you have to do, which I did. And then there was a time to leave, and I remember a family member saying, "Why can't you just be content?"
Ah, oh, stop
I've
it,
heard
you.
that so many times.
Why can't you just be happy doing what you're doing, right? And the response was, I need to do what I feel called to do. And really, they would never understand because their whole life is about safety and security. So somebody whose life is really in this little bubble around safety and security, that's all they can see. But somebody who's transforming and growing, fulfillment is way more important than safety and security. In fact, getting out of our comfort zone is way more important than safety and security. So we have to believe in ourselves enough to take that risk, despite what the people who love and care for us the most, and that's usually the ones who are the doubters, unfortunately, not all the time. But we have to be true to our own soul, living our own lives and not apologize for it.
Troy, how do you help a man understand that, number one, he has a soul, number two, it's an important part of him, and number three, to get in contact with it and his inner heart and his inner desire, which he's been told his entire life, you can't do that because you've got to do this. And even the wife says, if you were to do that, I'm going to leave your ass. And being willing to accept that as a consequence of what you're doing, because what you're doing is more important than saving some woman who doesn't care about you all that much anyway. I'm telling a personal story here. So anyway, but you know what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we want the support of our loved one, and if somebody's leaving you for pursuing your passion and your dream, that's a tough one. But that's I honor any man that is true to who they are, and the external circumstances we can't necessarily control. But I would say to a man, we have to let go of the external clutter. All the voices, both externally and internally, and we have to get still within ourselves. We have to trust the inner voice. And when we get in touch with that soul, we know there's something deeper, when it's not the ego that's driving us. When the ego drives us about money and fame and prestige and, external success, that's the ego. But when we are truly listening to our heart and our soul, and we get to the point where we can't not do this, and if we don't do it, we're betraying ourselves, then, if somebody leaves us for that, that's on them. And we gotta, it's tough, it sucks, but we would be betraying ourselves. And the last thing we want to do when we're on our deathbed is realize that we betrayed ourselves and we lived a life for somebody other than ourselves. That's the greatest regret that most people have, according to hospice workers that are on people's deathbeds. I don't want to be that man. I don't want to leave anything on the table. I don't want to be defined by external success because it's a lie.
And it doesn't last. Rochelle?
It doesn't last. I am going to take us into the break because we don't have enough time to get through the question I want to ask, but I'll let you start thinking about it. I want to touch base on the opposite end of that. What if a woman comes to you and she's like, I'm at my wit's end. I love this man so much. I don't know what to even say or what to do at this point, and how you would help them with that and eventually get him into your presence. So stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back. We're talking with Troy Ismir, and Kevin, of course, and myself. So we'll be right back.
When the game is on the line, championship teams know the game plan. They communicate and work together to win. We all need a game plan to protect ourselves online. Talk to family and friends so they know how to stay safe too. Create strong passwords, turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing, because online safety is not something you want to fumble. Get more game-winning tips at CISA.gov/secure our world. Then share them with family and friends.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. Rochelle, you did a marvelous job taking us to the break, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Troy, do you remember the question that she was going to ask?
I would love it to be repeated because I want to make sure I give the best answer I can. I think I heard it, but I would love to hear it again if you wouldn't mind, Rochelle.
Of course, yeah. If a woman came to you and she said, I'm at my wit's end, I love this man so much, I don't know how to help him. And whether he's willing to help himself or not, that's beside the point. But how would you help her talk or introduce the idea to him? Like if he's already been working on it, but it's not working, then.
So I think I understand the question. So basically somebody's maybe in a relationship or a family member and somebody that's struggling and not willing to reach out for help. Is that kind of what you're
just
asking?
doesn't really know what to do. Like on the woman's end, what can she do to provide that? Because anything that when you're with somebody who truly loves you and somebody who's secure in themselves, whatever moves you make, they'll move with you if they know that it is in your best interest. And how do you help a man say, hey, maybe there's something better for you and maybe you should like leave this job? But how do you kind of help her just even introduce the idea to him and talk to him?
I mean, that's a tough one, right? We can't make anybody do anything.
Right.
We can love them, we can encourage them, we can support them, we can guide them, but ultimately it's an individual choice whether they leave their job, if they reach out for therapy, if they go, hire a coach. It's really hard to see somebody being destructive to themselves. And but unfortunately, sometimes the most loving thing we can do is let them walk their own journey, walk their own path. And I think it's probably the hardest thing to do when you love somebody and you see them making really unhealthy choices. And what I would probably say to that woman is to keep doing your own work, is to keep focusing on yourself. Because if we're trying to get them to change or to do something different, men can be really stubborn and do the opposite of what we're told to do. I don't wish that situation on anybody, but I think one of the best things that woman can do is just keep working on herself. And if we're bringing ourselves up, that person has a choice to keep going. It may not be the same level, but if the woman is continually growing and the man's just kind of stuck, that usually doesn't turn out good.
Is there any questions that you ask the woman or you have her ask the person that she loves to, rather than talking about it and explaining and doing all this extra stuff, is there any questions that you just kind of let them sit with and think about so they can make their own decisions?
Yeah, I'm thinking of my perspective. What I would like to hear is just like, hey, I love you so much. How can I support you? What do you need from me? How can I be there for you? I see all these great qualities in you, and this is what I really appreciate about you. But this is one area I see you struggling in. It's really hard for me to watch. What can I do? And what do you need from me? And that opens up a conversation. It doesn't put that person on the defensive. It actually say, hey, this is what I see. I'm here for you. I want to be there for you. What do you need? And that's a really loving, encouraging, hopeful, I think, question to ask. And if the man really, listens to that and knows that person cares, how can you not take a look at yourself? I certainly would. I think it's when at least when I'm put on the defensive, that's when, yeah, that's when either the door slam happens or the stiff arm or the shutdown.
Well, and that can work in all relationships, right? Like with any person coming to them and saying, "Hey, love you, I support you.
yeah,
How how can we make this better? Or is it
yeah,
going to be better to just walk away and be at peace rather than to drag each other through the dirt
yeah,
even longer?" Because
yeah,
I think sometimes it comes down to that too, where um, man or woman won't let go, and one or the other is just trying to run the other direction. And you kind of have to have that peace with yourself no matter what, that you make your decision for a reason and you stick with it. Because I see a lot of men, they're toyed, just pulled back and forth and keep regaining and going back into something.
yeah,
And both ends kind of do it. Maybe you hope for a change or whatever it is, but
yeah.
not
And,
healthy.
yeah. And I mean, some relationships are not meant to last forever. You
Yeah.
come together
Want
for a
to walk
period.
away with peace, though, to
Yeah,
still love, to
yeah,
still have encouragement and care. A lot of times, especially on the woman's end, which makes it so much harder for the guy who doesn't even think I don't need to heal through this because she hates me, and that's how
mhm,
they handle it, is to just kind of deteriorate the man and tell him everything he did wrong. Because I
yeah,
hate to break it to you, women, it takes two.
yeah,
And I think even sometimes taking a look at yourself as a woman, if I had any advice to give, let the man you know or that you love know for the things that you also see in yourself that you're working on and growing
mhm,
in and that you are sorry for. So he has that recognition maybe of you in yourself so that he's able to do it with him as well, opening
yeah.
up that space, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a very mature way to be in relationship.
Yeah, but are
Smart.
most men are most men even that bright to be able to say it? Because especially where women are concerned, is like, I don't get women. I have no idea what they're saying. You know what I mean? It makes so I hope that when they come to you, Troy, that you're able to help them to kind of deal with some of this stuff, because a lot of guys they've been brought up to worship the pretty woman, but
Mhm.
they don't necessarily think in terms of a life partner or an equal thing, or
Mhm.
they and then when the woman decides you're nice. Oh, all right, all right. What do you say to the guy who says to you, okay, Troy, I don't know what it is, but I've got lots of female friends, and all say I'm a wonderful guy, but nobody wants to date me. What's wrong?
Well, I guess the good news is I have a lot of relationship experience, so I do have a lot of wisdom I can share. I mean, was married for 18 years, divorced. I've been divorced now for 15 years. I, dated, after my divorce, and I've not dated for 2 years and just kind of working on myself, which has actually been beautiful. Yeah, I would say, just keep working on yourself and be that best version of yourself. And, there's nothing wrong with being a nice guy without being a pushover, right?
Yeah,
So I
set
think
boundaries. That's what I was thinking of. Thank you.
yeah, it's a lot of self-confidence, right? And a lot of times men go into a relationship needing that validation to feel worthiness. So they're kind of soft, and it doesn't mean you're going in with arrogance, but it means just confidence in who we are. And, there's nothing wrong with being a nice guy. There's nothing wrong with being caring and compassionate. But I also think we have to be self-fulfilled. We have to be happy. We have to be joyful. We have to love who we are. And when we go into a relationship that way, we, if it works out great, if it's not meant to be, that's okay too. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
And I think men go into a relationship like this has to be the one. This is the one. And it puts so much pressure on that other person. And then we become people pleasers. We try to fit into what that woman wants us to be. And women are smart enough to know over time that you're kind of living this lie. So it becomes deceptive. And that's not a good way to start a relationship or be in a relationship. So, I mean, that's kind of what I would tell them in. But again, it takes a lot of inner work to enter into a healthy relationship as a healthy person.
And I can only tell you, Troy, I don't have the patience, desire, or time to get into a relationship with her. But I do have, the good thing about me is I haven't dated anybody ever since 1980, except for my ex-wife. Which what that means is
Boring.
that I'll never have AIDS, and I'm safe, and because the AIDS wasn't even around then.
Yeah, I haven't heard AIDS in a long time. Actually, in pharmaceuticals, I sold HIV drugs, so that was a big during that time. HIV was kind of on the wane, but it definitely was still fairly prevalent.
I know. What did you say? Boring, by the way. Rochelle.
Yeah,
That was
and
Rochelle.
hey, I hate to break it to you. This is to all the guys. If you're gonna hear me say one thing, let me hear you say this. Just because you go on a date doesn't mean you're gonna get AIDS. You know why? Because you don't have to touch each other. Just a thought. It's the first date.
And what the hell are you going on the date for?
I know, right?
I'm not touching that one.
I wouldn't either.
Well, I've seen it actually in reverse. It's a lot of girls now who are starting to act like the guys. We start to play the guy's game, and then you find a good guy, and he's like, "What is going on? Like, I'm confused." Or you end up just kind of ravaging your way through things. I see so many girls, and I love how you shared that you pulled back and you took that time with yourself because you don't always need to be out having these experiences, meeting these people, doing these things. It's so beneficial for all of the people around you for you to sit and spend that time with yourself as well. Because when you get burned out, it affects your relationships more than it needs to, and then you lose track of everything you started. So it's okay to pull back and it's okay to take that time. And it's okay to be alone. I think that's a hard one for a lot of men.
Yeah, men don't know how to be alone. They feel lonely and their aloneness, and that's something that I've had to learn to do. And I've learned to love to be alone and not feel lonely. And I think that's a skill that all men need to have, because there's a lot of desperation when they feel lonely. Then they're going to go out and start grasping for,
or they find the most chaotic female possible, and then they're like, "What have I done?"
Yeah, I've witnessed that. It's not a good thing, and I would say being alone can be really adventurous as we start to learn and understand who we are. There's an adventure to that when we step into our authentic selves, and it can be really a time of growth, and it can be really exciting. Kevin's laughing. I'm not sure if I want to know why.
I'm sure you don't. When I was a bus driver, and there was another bus driver that was working 65 hours a week, and I said, "Why do you work so much?" And he said, "Well, I have my wife at home, and I want to keep her happy, and she's used to a certain standard of living, and so that means because of the bills we've got, I have to work 65 hours a week." And he looked at me and he said, "Well, what does your wife do? What does she think?" And I said, "I'm not married." And he goes, "What?" I said, "I'm not married." And he goes, "You mean you can do anything you want to do, whatever you want to?" And I said, "Yeah, nobody controls my ship. I can do anything I want to." And he goes, "Oh, damn."
Probably save a lot of money too, huh, Kevin?
I do. Because if I don't buy it, it doesn't get bought. If I don't need it, it doesn't happen. But and I don't have to worry. Anyway, I could go on and on. But see, for me, being single, I'm not single. I get to talk to Troy every day, or Rochelle every day, or all the people that I get to meet. So my life is full and it's really fulfilled. So but isn't that what you want, for everyone to feel that way? And so many of us don't. And so don't settle. Yeah. My dad settled and he regretted it to the day he died, like Troy said earlier. Don't settle. Yeah. Do something great for yourself.
Yeah, that's don't chase after success, chase after self-fulfillment.
That's it. And Troy, we've just got a minute, about 30 seconds left. Anything that you'd like to add? Your website? Anything else you'd like to add, please?
Yeah, real quick. So you see this mustache if you're on YouTube or whatever. I'm raising funds through Movember for men's mental health awareness and suicide prevention awareness. I'm doing a triple bypass bike ride on Saturday. It's 118 miles and 10,800 feet of climbing with this idea of raising awareness around men's mental health.
Yeah.
Our last guest that we interviewed today is actually a part of that. So I hope you guys get to see each other at some point. I believe.
Okay. Awesome. I'll check it out. Yeah, I'd love to learn who he is. And yeah, so he's doing the triple bypass bike ride in Colorado.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
He'll be there.
Congratulations on doing that. That is.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've done it back in 2018, so it's been 7 years. So I kind of know what to expect, but I have a bigger purpose about doing it this time. And like I said, suicide prevention awareness is big on my heart.
As well it should be. And yes, for everybody. And Troy, thank you so much for coming back. You're going to have to do it again. I'm afraid we're not done yet with you. we got more.
Yeah, I have a book that'll be coming out on golf, so called President's Golf: A Sacred Path to Self-Mastery. That will probably be coming out this fall, so maybe we can chat about that.
Yeah.
Self-mastery. What a concept. Thank you, you two. We got to run. I'm late and stuff. Thank you both.
Guys. All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.